What up? It's Jack, aka Just a Cunt here, and UFC 316 just wrapped up where Merab Dvalishvili just neck cranked Sean O'Malley from the North-South position in round 3 in a exceptionally dominant performance, and needless to say, something I did not expect. Anyway, before we get to that and the co-main event, let's start up from the early prelims where Quillen Salkilde defeated Yanal Ashmouz via 3-round decision. Now, this fight went just about as I expected, with Quillen having good success on the feet, but mainly be able to implement grappling, hold Ashmouz on the ground, and have a pretty solid performance. One thing that I did see that could give me some pause was how Quillen will leave his hands down. He will kind of leave himself vulnerable, especially in the clinch. There'd be times where he would take in Yanal into the clinch, put him against the fence, and would kind of leave his head exposed, where Yanal, who does have very solid overhands, very big strikes, will swing for the fences, did put Quillen in some trouble, especially late in the fight at the end of round 3. Not enough for me to think it was necessarily close or whatever, but it was overall a competitive fight, I would say, especially on the feet, where I expected Quillen to land better on Yanal, use more knees, more kicks, but felt like that he mainly found most of his success in the grappling, which he did quite good in, especially getting up. That's something I was nervous about, where Yanal has solid, decent enough grappling, and sometimes Quillen looked like he would try to play guard a little bit, but he wasn't playing with any of that. Feet on hips, got up, very solid, took him down, defended. Didn't really hurt Yanal too much, didn't do too much damage, but very solid, impressive performance. I'm not too sure how far Quillen can go at this point. It's kind of difficult to say in terms of there's certain guys that will be very skilled but can't necessarily enforce their will a crazy amount, but can still beat a lot of guys. You can kind of see this with like how Israel Adesanya came up, where even though he has power and he's had very impressive wins, sometimes he's just better enough than the other person that he's able to kind of coast a little bit, doesn't have to force a finish too much, and whether or not that's true with Quillen, we'll have to see. But anyway, moving up the card, what I think will be the most forgotten highlight of this card, just because of how impressive Merab and Kayla were into the main and co-main event. Joe Sang KO'd Yeka Saragi in the first round in a, people are saying Alex Pereira style. I would say more Carlos Ulberg, in the sense of it wasn't, Pereira likes to wind up on the hooks, and he's more likely to like weave a jab, weave a two, and then do the left hand, where Yo Sang was able to more so fade away, take advantage of Yeka overextending on the punch, kind of being off his feet, and just flatlined him out fucking cold, was, in my opinion, the KO of the year, and not really anything could be too much with it. But that's all to say that looked very solid. He wasn't putting as much pressure I expected him to. He kind of hung around the back foot, kind of like Yeka, just kind of charge at him. Stayed safe. Relied on his shoulder roll a little bit. Yeka didn't really do anything too clean, but he was able to touch him. So that's something that I may look at in the future to see how he will compete with other opponents. But hard to say anything more than just a perfect UFC debut. I'm very excited to see what he is going to do later in this division. But anyway, moving up the card, Wang Kong did exactly what I thought she was going to do, which is fucking win a semi-boring decision. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember what happened in this fight. I watched it. It was solid. She tried aura farming on the walkout a little bit. Moving on to the prelims. Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. Andreas stepped on, I didn't realize till night of that this fight fell through again, where he's supposed to fight Earth Magic, then he's supposed to fight someone on his UFC debut, and then now Andreas Gustafsson. I overall went on this card, I believe it was 8-3-1, the one coming here just because of the new opponent. I didn't give a prediction for it. I want to say I would have picked Andreas, but I'm not too sure on that. And yeah, KS Williams this isn't his main job. I'm not too surprised that if he doesn't KO someone, he's probably going to lose a boring decision. He's not going to try that hard. I like KS Williams. didn't look that bad. Andreas kind of went full retard and just kind of overwhelmed him a little bit. Nothing too crazy, too noticeable. Um, but yeah, Chaos Williams, he has some potential, has good physicality. Um, I don't know, maybe there's something that we don't know, but at the end of the day, I get it. Hey, if you're a UFC fighter, being around Chaos level, you probably make close to 100K a year, give or take, fighting, 2 times, maybe once if you get a good bonus. But, you know, shout out Andreas. Sweden has a Dricus du Plessis. Moving up on the card, Sergey Spivak. Before I absolutely fumbled the main and co-main event, this was my only loss up until then, and it was a pretty solid fight. I think some people are hating on it a little bit. I'm honestly impressed that Sergey Spivak was kind of the marauder in this thing, and he had some very he mogged Waldo a little with the takedowns, but he just couldn't hold him down at all, which should surprise me. Spivak is not a joke on the ground. I know he has kind of underwhelming losses in terms of he kind of crumbles, but he is pretty sick on the fucking ground. He did submit Marcin Tybura, and that's something like that's not necessarily an easy thing, I would say. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he won this fight, but to me still looked shit. Yeah, I felt like the first round, there was a certain thing that I think there's a lot of fighters who are quote unquote technical. When I say quote unquote technical, I don't mean necessarily they're bad at their job, but guys like Waldo Cortez Acosta, a couple of these like almost like Sean O'Malley, Conor McGregor, in and out, try to be bouncy, jab, counter, very technical on the outside feet, on the outside. The beakers and test tubes, as Lucas Tracy likes to say. These types of guys, they will have trouble landing a lot of meaningful shots. Not necessarily, I think, just because of power, but also because they're on the back foot, they're fading away a lot. They focus on jabs. They often have shitty fucking overhands that look so fucking horrible. Like Kamaru Usman has the same too, where he just doesn't know how to throw a fucking overhand. It's literally just a windmill Homer Simpson punch. But with that being said, Waldo Cortez Acosta just stayed on the back foot, jabbed him. He had trouble with Sergey's defense in the beginning, where Sergey would literally pull his hands up and just hard parry, either the jab hand or he'd hard parry the rear hand. Literally, that's all he'd fucking do. He'd just stand there, hands up, and literally just hard jab, just wipe away all the jabs and one round off that. I I I'm not gonna rewatch the fight, but if I did rewatch the fight, I may feel like Sergey may have won. I felt like in that third round he was landing very hard punches, but Waldo ate them all. And also, Waldo was doing this almost like what Merab does, where he emote after getting hit with hard shots. So you're kind of set there wondering, like, did he get hurt or he's just having fun? Is he just like playing dead? But that's pretty smart. I think more UFC fighters will do. The commentary was kind of making fun of him for it, but like at the end of the day, if you don't know, if you're actually rocked, then cuts out a little bit. Surprisingly decent fight, but nothing too crazy. While Cortez Acosta, I don't know how much farther he's gonna get, but he's doing better than at least I expected. Moving up the card to a real contender, Azamat Murzakanov. This is exactly how I expected the Johnny Walker fight, and I basically expected the same thing against this guy. It did seem like, though, that Ribeiro did give Azamat some trouble just with how much bigger he is. I forget kind of how small Azamat is. I know joke about him being a bloated middleweight, but I kind of forget about that until he's fighting someone that's like actually like 6'4" and a big ass fucking light heavyweight Brazilian. But it felt like he was kind of having trouble landing anything of substance, would land some kicks, gaining his range, kind of what I expected with Johnny Walker. But at some point, he was able to counter Ribeiro and just finish him from there. A little bit of a late stoppage, kind of bullied him a little bit, but I get it, give the other guy a chance. I don't know what to say. It's hard to take too much away from this. We didn't really learn too much more about Azmat besides he's a bad man, and he's going to take care of most of these light heavyweights. I think he's not going to have really any trouble until he gets to the top 5. And even then, I think he's better than guys like Khalil Roundtree, Jamal Hill. I love Yuri Prohaska, but he may be a little bit too slick for him. Moving up for the other boys. This was a night for the boys, if you ask me. I'm an O'Malley fan, and I'll get to Merab later, but Merab is quite wholesome, and he is one of the boys, in my opinion. So moving up to the man, Joshua Van. Even better than I expected. I expected him to fucking rock Bruno Silva as much as he did. before I start glazing Joshua Van and start talking about why he's the fucking GOAT and better than Demetrius Johnson at 23, he did get caught here and there. It didn't really hurt him too much, which I am surprised because he has been finished before. And Bruno Silva does hit, he's got some pop on him. And he did land some decent shots on Joshua Van, did counter him here and there. It's hard to, when you're Joshua Van and his style is very aggressive, very going forward, punchy, especially with boxing, you're going to get caught here and there. But he rolls with him well. He does good. The only thing that I do have any pause on for the future of his career is that similar to Rob Font, he does his best work when he's on the front foot landing offense. His offense is almost his defense at times. But the problem that comes with that when you start fighting people who are snipers, in Rob Font's case, Marlon Vera, and will probably be Joshua Van's case will be Kai Kara France or Pantoja. These guys can land a nasty overhand. They can set up a punch. They can land big shots on the back foot. That's something that I'm going to be nervous of a little bit. Not as much against Brandon Moreno. Moreno does hit hard, but I don't know. That fight I think is very interesting. And I'm definitely going to pick Joshua Van in this fight. I just feel like Moreno doesn't quite have the same. I don't know. He doesn't have the same. It felt like before that Moreno would terminate Max a lot. He was able to come forward. Nothing could really hurt him too much. But then he got dropped got dropped by Pantoja in a dog fight. But then it just felt, I don't know, something like Moreno, like, I don't know. Tell me if you guys think this. Sometimes I feel like certain UFC fighters, especially ones that have lost a lot early in their careers, whether it be the amateur scene or UFC, but they've had to grow a lot, like Charles Oliveira, Brandon Moreno, these type of guys that have struggled a lot in their careers, able to move up, fight, keep going. They eventually they make it to the mountain, they get the belt, they were the underdog, everyone was rooting for them. They have their big moment that everyone is like what makes the sport so great. That I almost feel like it makes it hard to be like a long running champ because like I feel like a lot of these guys run on motivation. They run on being the underdog. Like when Oliveira was fighting Gaethje, he's the underdog. He's a pussy. He's gonna tap out. He proves them wrong. But at some point, these guys fight someone that they can't like use that to win. They need more than that. So I do feel like Joshua Van at this point in his career, especially with all the momentum going back to back to back, winning the fighting on UFC Noche, which I do hope they do fight there. Just a impressive performance, really. Dropping Bruno Silva multiple times, crazy counters, back foot, front foot, defended everything, got taken down, got right back up. I mean, it's hard to not ask for anything better than that. 3 rounds of pure domination. Can't wait to see what Joshua Van is going to do to carve out his leg of the division. He's not even 24. That is absolutely insane. Anyway, moving up to the main card. Kevin fucking Holland decides to do his once a year fucking lock-in where he will get fucking ragdolled, destroyed, doesn't even look like a real fucking fighter, and then locks in and fucking darces someone. Vicente Luque was kind of what I expected, to where Luque doesn't have a lot of things to enter in on people. His leg kicks, they're solid, but they're kind of predictable. He kind of goes shin for shin, just kind of blast leg kick, solid body kick, but nothing too crazy. And his head movement works, but he just focused on counters. Like it felt like with Kevin Holland that he'd land a shot, he'd pressure him. Luque would start moving his head, trying to land big shots, but then Kevin Holland would just fade away and then hit him at the end of his punch. It just felt like Luque he didn't have the frame. He just doesn't have the ability to get in. He can't challenge Kevin Holland on the ground. He just didn't have what he needs. Like at least Burns can at least try to take down Kevin Holland. Colby can at least try and change the fight in some way. But at the end of the day, if you're only gonna react to grappling with grappling, you're not, he just doesn't have the tools for it. I feel like to face a guy like Kevin Holland. It's just kind of sad. His chin's not gone though. He'd eat a nasty fucking elbow to put a big bump on the back of his head, but he's doing better in the second round. Falls onto the ground. Kevin Holland latches up a door. Not too much to say. He just kind of similar to Renato Moicano versus Islam. Vicente Luque rushes up. He rushed up with his one. I believe it was his left arm. He grabbed Kevin Holland leg going up on a single, but he didn't wrap his other arm. He was kind of posting with it, leaving his neck open. Gets darced. Not too much to say. Great one from Kevin Holland. Can't wait for him to get fucking held against the cage by Colby Covington for 3 rounds. Mario Batista versus fucking, I don't even give a fuck to you remember your name. I don't remember your name when I made prediction. I'm not gonna remember it now. Mario Batista whooped his fucking ass. Not too much more to say. Beat the shit out of him. Um, just felt like you kind of saw that Batista just doesn't have power, and I feel like it's gonna hurt him later in his career because at some point you gotta have, unless you're Merab, which even Merab now has, fucking neck connect crank somebody. It just feels like Mario Batista looked very good, has a lot of the technical fundamentals. He's very good everywhere, very solid, move around, bounces around a lot. It's just above UFC competition, but I feel like against certain people that can beat him in one area or another handily, like grappling or on the feet, I feel like he's gonna have trouble. Anyway, excited for Mario Batista. What's next for him? I wouldn't mind him fighting Chito Vera again. It's hard to say with these Bellator guys how much of a step up you want to get, but I wouldn't mind that Chito Vera fight again. Song Yudong doesn't have an opponent. There's a couple other guys that I could see giving Mario Batista a fun, hard fight, but yeah, just a overall solid performance against I don't know, some fucking Bellator fighter. Joe Pyfer. This isn't a robbery, but it's funny to think the fact that Kelvin, you could say he wins, and it's not like that's not delusion at all. When Kelvin walked in and stepped up, and I saw him from the side, and he looked like he looked like a fucking French bulldog begging for food. I thought this man was gonna get fucking deported. I saw it live on television. Donald Trump hired someone to fucking send his ass back across the border. But yeah, after getting fucking dropped 2 times in the first round and getting just bullied, Joe Pyfer decides to be fucking shit. Tries to just fucking bounce around, land a kick, do a jab, feint, 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 just wing a fucking right hand and just fucking circle out and just back up and just be long and tall. Um, yeah, it was a shit performance. He's a power merchant. There's not too much to say. He hasn't showed me that he could even beat Jack Hermanson yet. Put him against Cannonier. Fuck it. Give him a step up. I'm not too sure if Cannonier has a fight right now. I wouldn't mind Cannonier to win fights. Maybe you want to give Cannonier a step up, but maybe, I don't know. I feel like this is a good win. Kelvin was starting to land bombs on him in the third round. I think that is a good fight for Cannonier. I think that's a banger of a fight. If not, you could do RoboCop versus Joe Pyfer. That'd be fun. I kind of, if I want to see Pyfer fight someone that is similar size, have power, that he can't just bully his way through. Yeah, dog shit performance. Shout out Kelvin. Should still, it's hard to say what he's gonna do. Probably fight another up and coming contender, do all right, or fight a jobber and win a close decision. All right, here's one I just absolutely fumbled the bag. All right, now hear me out. I know what I said about Juliana Pena. In my defense, Kayla Harrison took Kayla Harrison to a fucking decision. I don't want to play that card. I don't want to play the stereotypical guru MMA guru card where it's like this person took this shitty fighter to a decision, so they're not able to finish anybody. I don't know. Juliana Pena seemed like she had decent submission defense. Women's MMA is hard to guess, but Kayla Harrison looked solid. Looked good. Looked like yeah. Looked good. I think she beats Amanda Nunes. I don't see a Nunes, if she gets fucking choked out by Julia Penny at any point in her career. I think Harrison could probably do it. The feet looked okay. I think that I need to rewatch Kayla's loss in the PFL against that one fucking Brazilian dude and see kind of how Nunes might be able to take advantage of that. But I do think, at least at this point, now I'm curious to see because they were talking about weight a lot, if they are going to go to 145 for this, maybe. But at the same time, the division's dead either way. It doesn't matter. This is basically the last fucking fight. Who's to go? Close the division. Never talk about it again. Very good one by Kayla. Shout out Kayla, though. I don't want to just spend this time just kind of being passive aggressive towards her. It is nice to see these type of stories. See, these generational athletes in terms of the Olympics, PFL, doing all this, raising kids, very good role models. And I'm glad to have this in the sport. She is a very good role model for people, as someone that you can look up to and see just how much you can do. And is good to have that for women, is a good example for women. I'm glad to see it. Shout out Kayla Harrison. Juliana Pena got custom shorts. Just gonna leave it at that. Moving up to the main event. Merab Dvalishvili. Fair play. Just give it up to Merab. I'm not going to spend this time shitting on him. I'm an O'Malley fan. I like his style a lot. O'Malley's just super fun to watch. Very impressive. I don't want to harp on him too much. He did look good in the second round, and I do think he looked good in the first round too. And I think he did look better. It just felt like that for as much as we can shit talk Merab about, not being that skilled or just, being a cardio machine or just, autistically jumping back and forth, as much as we can make fun of him from stuff like that, he's getting better. He's putting in the work. He's doing what other people don't want to do. He's not getting comfortable. And he's just an honest fighter. And I think he's someone that people should look up to and appreciate for as much memes as he's getting. He's getting a lot of love now, which is good to see. But yeah, he just took it to a different level. First round, felt like he was trying to be more aggressive, but still tentative, trying to find that balance, trying to get that range. And O'Malley was landing good. I feel like O'Malley was winning that first round, just touching him up before he got that takedown. And then I felt like Merab took it at the end there. But it did feel like that O'Malley might actually try to outpoint and touch up Merab. He did land some solid shots in this fight, but he just felt like he couldn't really hurt Merab, which is interesting to see that, Cejudo and Marlon Moraes were able to hurt Merab. But at the same time, I do think there is something to having a more compact frame where O'Malley's so long. It doesn't seem like Merab gets caught a lot at range. I feel like he gets more caught in the pocket, which isn't exactly O'Malley's strong suit all the time, unless like it's with a knee or something like that. But yeah, and then third round, he just fucking cranked it up a notch. Just bullied more O'Malley. Felt like against the cage he had trouble, but in space, as soon as he was able to get his hands on O'Malley, picked him up and put him down. It's not too much more besides that. And not only that, O'Malley was doing good on the ground in terms of he was building his space. He got to his back. He got to the cage. He straightened up, took back down. Straightened up, took back down. As soon as he's about to circle out, gets tripped out and taken down again. Just getting mauled. I mean, this feels like back when like early like Habib era, where like wrestlers were really starting to, beat up a lot of strikers, or like Conor lost. A lot of these guys just couldn't really compete. I felt like we got taken back to that day where I feel like the gap was closing. I feel like Merab really just feel like he's getting better and better. Now we're seeing him be more aggressive, doing more submission attempts, really dominating, putting his will on there, not just trying to hold people against the cage like Jose Aldo. And it is very satisfying to see him go from against Aldo, not being able to do too much besides just hold him against the cage, bounce around, to now where he's rocking Umar. He's taking him down. He didn't rock O'Malley, but he was really good. He's very underrated boxing in my opinion. He's not very wild and open as I felt like he used to be before. He got hit with the body here and there, but nothing too crazy. But O'Malley would land solid shots over the top. Merab would spin, O'Malley would land on over the top, and it just didn't really hurt him. I just felt like O'Malley couldn't get respect in there, which is surprising because O'Malley is one of these guys that, bullies people, whether people want to talk about his frame or not. He bullies Chito Vera. He in some ways bullies Peter Yan. He gets respect on the feet. He gets respect no matter who he's fighting against. Even if Peter Yan can get takedowns or, stuff like that, he's still able to implement his will and really work his frame out. But I just think Merab's a different beast. I think no one does that to O'Malley besides maybe Umar, but I think I want us to give respect to O'Malley. I do feel like he did get better. He did feel like that this is one of the best version of O'Malley's that we can expect, but Merab's just better. He's just bigger, just stronger, just better. O'Malley just can't really hurt him. So if you run this fight 10 times, I feel like Merab wins 9.5 times, and maybe O'Malley's able to outpoint him on the feet 0.5 times. Shout out Merab. Shout out his story. You kind of see him go from an everyman, a construction worker, an immigrant from a different country to America, working his way up with people with, nothing extraordinary, nothing magic, It is good to see and it is inspiring to see, especially if you look at Merab in his early career. You do see him. He has gassed out before. He has gotten tired. He has, as he said in the post-fight interview, he doesn't just not get tired. He's just able to work through, able to push, just honest work. And shout out Merab. He is a undoubtedly the bantamweight goat. If you think Dominic Cruz is anywhere near Merab, you're fucking dumb. I don't know what to tell you this. Merab is by far the bantamweight goat. It's not close. It wasn't a discussion before this fight after he beat Umar, but now that he beat O'Malley again and neck cranked him in 3 fucking rounds and dominated him. Nothing else to say. Nothing more to say. Nothing less. Merab is the bantamweight goat. Seemed like they're lining up a Corey Sandhagen fight. I mean, the division's kind of open right now. No one's really stamped themselves as a contender, so fuck it, give him a new name. This fight can be interesting just because Corey was able to defend a lot of the jiu-jitsu from Umar, where I feel like Umar is a better submission, has more submission threat than Merab. Corey was able to defend a lot of that, but I just see Corey getting bullied. I just see him getting taken down. I just see him getting sat on. I think if O'Malley can't hurt him, Corey Sandhagen definitely can't unless he just throws up a flying knee. I think Corey Sandhagen just gets outworked. He just gets taken down. Maybe he doesn't get submitted, but I think he loses 3 out of 2 rounds, comfortably gets taken down, held down. Doesn't really know what to do with Merab on the feet, but, you know, does solid. Following this, it's hard to say what's kind of going on after the division. You kind of need some Merab's outworking his contenders as well. You kind of need a little bit of you just need more matchups. I don't know. Peter Yan's fighting Marcus McGee, which I think is a little bit underrated, just because I think Marcus McGee is a very solid. I don't know if he's quite the elite top of the top. I don't see him beating Yan, but I do think he's actually going to make that fight competitive, and I think it's going to be a solid decision for Yan. But, you know, if Peter Yan beats that, Corey Sandhagen versus Merab in the meantime, and then you could probably give Peter Yan a title shot, especially if unless Merab loses, then you're gonna want Merab to get that title shot again. But I don't know. Peter Yan can make it interesting in my opinion, but I don't see him winning. I think he can get in Merab's face. I think he could do some things differently, maybe try to be more aggressive, throw more shots, try to fight more. I don't know if he'll be as dominant the first set, but at the same time, Merab just keeps getting better. So who knows? Maybe he just takes down some mid-Yan. Merab just seems to be on a different level than these guys. And he's kind of running out of options, you know? Probably the most competitive fight that we'll see in the future will be Merab versus Umar in a rematch, assuming Umar is able to recover and get a win or two and end up back at the belt. That's the only, that's the really only thing I see being too interesting. Anyway, coming up next week is UFC Fight Night, Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. I'm excited for it. This is actually a very solid card. Cody Garbrandt, Andre Petroski, Rose Namajunas, Edmund Shabazian. Just, nothing insane, but a very solid card, and I'm quite excited for that. I will be dropping predictions for that on Monday, and I will have a video up tomorrow. What if UFC Legends return, the lightweight edition? I'm going to try and start a new series where, street champions of different generations were to come back to the divisions we know it now. How would they compete? How would they stack up? Stay tuned for that. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great night. I will see you guys later. Have a good night.